You bumbling boob, you should have put out both halves at the same time. I'm talking about He-Man Revelations. Second half of the first season has dropped, another 5 episodes. And yeah, I'll lead with that joke because, and Kevin Smith has actually admitted to this isn't done any favors by being split in half, especially given the momentum of the thing as a whole. It really is made for binging pretty much all the way through. It has that kind of propellant energy that makes you want to just burn through it. And each half by itself, well, I'm not necessarily going to say the first half becomes worse, but the second half, that momentum that I would have otherwise had coming off the first 5 has already kind of faded based off the amount of time that's passed. So, I think that releasing them all at once would have just made more sense. That having been said, this was pretty fun. I do have some issues. I'll get to them. But for the most part, this was fun and entertaining. And it was a interesting and more mature in not especially deep ways, but more mature version of a cartoon that I loved growing up. It was interesting with things like, say, Evelyn, because honestly, it makes a lot of sense what happened there. Not just because it makes sense for the characters, but I mean like as a meta perspective, because this does remember and recognize that Skeletor, for everything else he ever tries to accomplish, he has tunnel vision about He-Man. Ultimately, no matter what he cares about more than anything is getting rid of He-Man. So he could have all the power in the universe, and ultimately he's still hung up on the idea of killing He-Man. So it makes sense that somebody with a grander who doesn't have that tunnel vision, like Evelyn, is going to dethrone him and be like, get the hell out of here, you nincompoop, and take stuff over. I'm a little bit I guess torn on the whole thing of Evelyn, like seeing the full scope of the universe and then deciding, well, this is all chaos and nonsense and pointless, so let's just destroy it all. It's I don't know, it's kind of baby's first existential crisis, which is a weird thing to try and do, because like doing an existential crisis at all is a somewhat more mature thing. But then like treating it this cartoonish way, it's sort of like, it's one of those points where the more adult inclinations of the creative team kind of clash with the overall tone of the thing a little bit. Because if you're gonna do that, I feel like you should take that more seriously instead of doing a cartoon paddling pool shallow dive into the idea of someone having an existential crisis and becoming a nihilist. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I will say this, though. When she got powered up, step aside, Lady Dimitrescu. Oh, that is a look that I really hope any cosplayer who has been doing, say, Scorpia from She-Ra and the Princess of Power wants to tackle that. Yes, please. I thought they did with Tila was good. I especially like that it tied into her mother and her very mixed and complicated feelings about her mother's decision to just not be a part of Tila's life out of a sense of obligation and the greater good. The greater good. Sorry, I can't stop myself from doing that. So I think that was well handled and pretty well done. We got some more really deep cuts, which was fun to see. Like freaking Blade showed up. I love that these people clearly watched the Masters of the Universe movie from the 80s. I mentioned this in the last time I reviewed this thing, that there were line pulls and little moments. I'm like, they didn't just watch the cartoon, they watched the movie. And as the person who sometimes feels like they're the only one on the planet who genuinely likes that movie, I didn't say it's good, I just like it. I appreciate those little things. I am, like, if you haven't figured it out by now, spoilers. Yeah, I'm going to talk pretty freely here. I've already spoiled some stuff. Oops. Orko coming back again was good. It felt nice. It felt like a good payoff that worked for me. Normally I would have called, like, why do we have to do that with the setting up basically setting up Hordak, which, given that we've already gotten another take on not only Hordak but also Horde Prime from the She-Ra show, it will be interesting if this keeps going to see what they will do with him here. And normally I'd be kind of about setting that up, like, right at the tail end, except that here it makes perfect sense because, look, Skeletor got what he was after. He attained the power he's been trying to get for the entire time that we have known him, and he still lost. So there really is no way to up the threat of Skeletor any higher. So the only thing left to do is to bring in somebody else. And while, like, part of me kind of wishes that they had gone with King Hiss and the Snake Men just to throw a real curveball into anyone who was expecting a setup for Hordak. I mean, what can you do? It's a wish list thing. I'll live. Trying to think what else before I get into some of the things that irked me a little bit. Some of the voice acting wasn't stellar. Adam's mom in particular never quite landed right for me. And also, can I be completely honest? I feel like the fact that they had Mark Hamill voicing Skeletor, I feel like they really leaned into the more Jokerish end of his vocal range on this one. Like, I caught it a little bit in the first 5, but it felt like they leaned on it a lot, or maybe because I'm just noticing it more because they kind of pulled a Harley Quinn with Evelyn and Skeletor. And it's not that doesn't make sense. It does, but given that you have the voice of the Joker from when Harley Quinn was very first introduced in Batman the Animated Series, it makes it feel more derivative than it might have otherwise. Also, like, I can't back this up with anything substantive, but Skeletor shouldn't have a sex drive. Evelyn shouldn't be able to seduce him. He should not have a sex drive. That's weird and creepy to me. And not like in a fun way, like in a So yeah, didn't like that. I can't substantively defend my dislike of that. I just didn't like that. For the record, I don't think the Joker should have a sex drive either. But, you know, I know that I'm definitely in a minority on that one. In any case, since I've kind of started to go into gripes, here's the main one for me. I feel like the body count is too high on this. Especially for the more triumphant finale it's going for. And there's basically 3 areas that I'm going to talk about where this impacted my enjoyment of the thing, and sort of from the lower end and getting worse. First, there was Evelyn effectively destroying heaven. If you're not going to establish what happened to those people, I'm a little bit like, that's a heck of a thing, since, like, we've been there. We've seen these warriors and these fighters enjoying their eternal peace, and now they're just nothing. That's okay. And that doesn't get undone. I can kind of go with that one, though, because, like, they were all warriors. And so, like, in theory, there was, a sense that knowing that they might end badly was part of their deal. It was how they lived their lives, even though this is supposed to be their afterlife and their reward. Although I don't like the fact that we, like, see the sorceress there. I didn't like that. But anyway, so that's, like, the bottom. I'm kind of like, There's when Skeletor transforms a whole bunch of people into skeletal minions. My first, and like the next 2 things are attached to that. My first, like the city was in the process of being evacuated, and while I'm not going to swear that I saw any children, the setup and the town and who was being evacuated, and, like, the kinds of people who were just caught up in this, struck me as the kind of thing where, like, families and children got transformed, and that never got reversed, which feels cruel. And then there's the one that really bugs me, which is that treatment being given to Fisto and Clamp Champ. And I didn't like that, not because I'm especially attached to either of those characters. I'm not. They did get some fun and some laughs out of me with just the way they had Fisto speak and use just the word fist. And yeah, okay. Anyways, I'm an adult. But I don't like it for the same reason that I don't like what happened to Cyclops in X-Men The Last Stand. For the same reason I don't like what happens to the Warriors 3 in Thor Ragnarok. I don't particularly care about these characters. But somebody out there does. Somebody somewhere, these were their favorite secondary characters. And they are disposed of in a way that feels cruel and lacks acknowledgement or ceremony. And like, as someone who one of their favorite niche characters did get killed in the first chunk, and that was Mossman. Yes, he died, but he got to be super badass before he did. And while I didn't love the fact that he died, I was kind of like, okay. I don't feel like these two got that. And more to the point, it really rings weird with Clamp Champ because he's one of the few not white or not a creature or monster characters from that original toy line. So, yeah, I feel like if you were going to kill them for good, that was a bad pull to do that with. And even aside from that, like I said, it just feels dismissive in a way that it feels disrespectful to the characters. And not like these are great characters, but like I said, these are somebody's nostalgic favorite. Treat them like they were yours. I don't know. That's just the way I think these kinds of things should be approached in general. But that's me. Different mentality for different folks, I suppose. But for the most part, I did enjoy this. I think it went pretty well. I would like to see a second season. I would like to see where they go with things from here. I would like to see where Evelyn goes as a character in particular, moving forward from here. I think this is a solid continuation overall. I have my gripes, obviously. I'm me. Was there any chance I wasn't going to have some gripes? But for the most part, this was quite enjoyable. It's not elevating the entire thing the way that I feel She-Ra and the Princess of Power did, but it's also not trying to. And I know there was another He-Man related thing that was like all CGI that got released between the two halves of this season. I haven't watched that because I didn't like the look of it, like animation-wise. I just couldn't bring myself to care. But that's the back half of He-Man. Sorry, He-Man's not in the title. Masters of the Universe Revelation. You see it, what you think about it. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe. I got a Patreon. That's how I pay my bills and have this whole operation up and running. But no big pressure on that. I take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. Hey, if you're sticking around through the credits, might as well hear some names read out. My Patreon helps support this, and in particular, I want to thank Raven McBain, Bookworm, MJ, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Kaylin Schwartz, Edalyn, Robin Moore, Ross Schultz, Shayla Gourlay. Want to hear me mispronounce your name? Check out the rewards on the Patreon.